Would have thought that we would have seen a 1 seed lose to an 8 seed and a 2 seed lose to a 7 seed in the same year. It's an understatement to say that it is quite remarkable that we're seeing these feats in the NBA today. However, it really is not a surprise though. A lot of people had the Lakers winning their series, but definitely not a lot of people had the Miami Heat winning their series, or the New York Knicks for a matter of fact. And now we come full circle to the point where we are getting a New York Knicks versus a Miami Heat playoff series, which this has historically been a rivalry if we go all the way back to the 1990s, I believe. Specifically, they did play each other in 4 consecutive years from 1997 to 2000. Although it would have been so cool to see if we could have saw LeBron in Miami versus Carmelo in New York play. We obviously know what the outcome would have been, but that would have been cool. I think we all wanted that in 2013 if you were around in that time. And in that time, when was Jimmy Butler was, I believe, a sophomore in the NBA on the Chicago Bulls, and now we go very long ahead in the area of Jimmy Butler on the Miami Heat, now facing Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle and that whole squad there. And now, because this series was so unpredictable, I'm also so excited, and to see either one of these teams possibly progress all the way to the NBA Finals is unlikely, because a lot of us do believe that the Boston Celtics or the Philadelphia 76ers will progress to the finals, because that is the main matchup now with the Milwaukee Bucks being eliminated, which is why for me to predict the outcome of this series seems difficult and easy at the same time. On one hand, these teams were both the underdogs going into their series, as they were both the not home court advantage team. But I think you can objectively look at their teams on paper and be like, yeah, they do not stand a chance against this opposing team, but they came out victorious in 5. Now, obviously, when we do look at the Milwaukee Bucks, they did miss Giannis for a majority of that series. But still, each game that he did play, they still technically lost. But that really shouldn't be an excuse, because, like I always say, injuries are part of the game, and you just got to play that team in front of you that is there. But we see Tyler Hero and Victor Oladipo go out for the entirety of the playoffs. And the Cavs, I mean, that's just embarrassing how they lost with an injured Julius Randle. And for the second playoff series in a row for Donovan Mitchell, he is being very much outperformed by Jalen Brunson, who was thought to be the superior version of him, considering that's who the Knicks really wanted to bring in this summer instead of Jalen Brunson. At this point in time, it is quite debatable who is a better player than, in my opinion. But I will still say, maybe if you kind of put him in a vacuum, of course, and then you can call Donovan Mitchell does have the superior talent and also the resume to back it up. But matchup-wise against each other, it's debatable. Because one way that I would evaluate this matchup is by just sole wins. And now again, we've seen that Jalen Brunson has won their past 2 playoff series against each other, but even in the regular season, which is less important, Jalen Brunson does surpass in that regard as well. But then on the contrary, now let's talk about Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat. Now, with their series against the Milwaukee Bucks, I wasn't very vocal about it, but I did have some feelings about like how their history has gone. Obviously, in 2020, there was the bubble where they swept the Milwaukee Bucks when the Milwaukee Bucks were the 2nd or 1st seed, I believe, that year. No, wait, 3rd seed, because they played them in the first round and Miami was the 6th seed that went to the finals that year. Then the next year around, when Jimmy Butler was hurt in the playoffs, they got swept on their own accord, and then the Milwaukee Bucks won the NBA championship. So if you just look at these teams from a basketball standpoint, especially offensively, I see an identity with that Miami Heat team year in and year out. But when it comes to the Milwaukee Bucks, they're so suspect when it comes to their half-court offense. And also Mike Budenholzer and his maybe adjustments mid-series, which, obviously we get him some leeway now because he is a championship coach and there's not very many of those. But besides the point, so is Eric Spoelstra, and this man is probably a top 10 coach of NBA history. And also for the terrible news that came out regarding Mike Budenholzer, his brother apparently passed away during that game in Game 5, and I'm not sure if it was like a halftime news type of thing he overheard, and apparently that news was broken by Darvin Ham, which is pretty crazy. But prayers go out to Mike Budenholzer and his family, and I will leave it at that. Let's move on to other topics. Well, not entirely different topics, but, kind of still sticking on that series a little bit, and also Jimmy Butler in particular. because there is, they entered the quarter with a 16-point deficit, and they came back and won with a last-second shot to tie the game, and then they crushed them in overtime with Bam Adebayo fouling out. Like, how does that happen? And the worst part was that with 0.5 seconds remaining, they did not call a timeout when they had one in regulation, and then in overtime, when you see Grayson Allen with the ball with about 4 or 5 seconds left, he ends up dribbling and does a Euro step with a half second on the clock, and then you don't call a timeout, and you're eliminated from playoff contention. And I don't want to, dismiss any greatness that we are seeing from Jimmy Butler in particular, because obviously he had like top 3 playoff game ever in that series, and he did his thing with the inferior roster. But at the end of the day as well, I don't know if the New York Knicks are going to make as many mistakes as we saw the Milwaukee Bucks do, because also Tom Thibodeau is another great coach, and that's his rookie, that's Jimmy Butler's rookie head coach. That man probably knows him so well. Therefore, if the New York Knicks are just as simple as able to get the ball out of Jimmy Butler's hands as much as possible, then I have no reason why they should not win the series. However, a big part of me really wants to see the Miami Heat make it back to the finals some way, somehow, and whether that's playing Philly or playing Boston, which is, again, very unlikely they'll win because of the talent discrepancy, but it's just on my mind. I would also love to see New York make the finals as well, though. But other than all that, I guess I would like to make a prediction that the New York Knicks will win this series in 5 or 6 games. When you look at that Knicks team, they are very deep, and they're still a little bit injured, and maybe Julius Randle, maybe his injury right now is going to play a big part, and then he won't be able to perform as well. However, I think with the amount of struggles that we just saw Bam Adebayo have against Brook Lopez, that similar presence will then reoccur with Mitchell Robinson in this series. Think about it. That man had 11 offensive rebounds in a closing game against the Twin Towers and Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, and they just didn't look ready whatsoever. But still, that's something in it. And because I think the coverage will change significantly on Jimmy Butler, I don't know if he'll have those crazy 45 to 50 point performances like we're used to seeing from him. But Jimmy Butler is one guy you cannot doubt by any means, because that is a different beast in the NBA playoffs. It's also going to be a very physical series, which I'm looking forward to. And like I said, just from that little rivalry aspect that that happened all the way back in the 90s, I'm looking forward to it. However, again, that is pretty much all that I want to talk about. This very unpredictable matchup. I'm looking forward to it a lot, and I hope you guys are too. And hopefully y'all keep up with it and keep up with me as well. Otherwise, have a great one, y'all. Thanks for listening to the Boominverse. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and all that. Take care and peace out.